and it was a huge black lab. And then he's got a little teeny one that's only 100 pounds. So the big one had really bad dysplasia, and he said he was really having a hard time getting around last year. And we definitely thought we were going to lose him, and we had to carry him, and it was really awful. And we put him on the C60 Evo for dogs, and within 2 weeks, he's rolling again. Now he's catching Frisbees. Now he's running in the yard. And then he said to me, "Thank you for giving me one more year with my dog."
Hey, Inspired Tribe, my fellow freedom lovers. It's John Nolan here. Thank you so much for tuning in to another inspired conversation. And today we're talking about a very, very, very special molecule. As a matter of fact, it is more valuable than gold per ounce. And we're bringing on the partners that brought this to life and are bringing this to the people everywhere. And I'm going to tell you how it affected my 13-and-a-half-year-old golden retriever. I can't believe these results. But welcome with me, Patty Greer and Chris Burris from C60 Evo. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
John, thank you so much for having us.
Oh, it's a pleasure to have you. Patty, we've already talked. You're kind of becoming a regular on the Inspired channel.
I love it.
Today you're bringing your partner, Chris. And I got to ask you both, whoever wants to answer this first question. So recently, we started giving our 13-and-a-half-year-old golden retriever, C60 Evo, little blue bottle, and he loves it. I put it over his food. Yeah, exactly. Put it over his food. Now he is going up in vitality. I can notice this every day. He wants to go out for walks more often and whatnot. What is happening with my dog?
All right, I'll take this one. I'll get super geeky on this. First, I want to kind of focus a little bit of attention whenever you're learning about any sort of kind of new supplement, new health supplement, new nutrient. Part of you is going, man, is this just the placebo effect? Right? Like, because that's the concern. Like, if I take this and it says it's good at all these things and I feel all these things, is that just the placebo effect? Could I have saved my money and just bought some sugar, put that label on it, and consumed it? When it comes to pets, there is no placebo effect, right? So your dog is not waking up and going, oh, I got my dropper today, and so I'm going to be more vibrant or vital or whatever the specific things you're noticing. He or she is just acting. He or she, which
his name is Jagger. Yeah,
Jagger is just acting the way Jagger wants to feel, based on how he feels. There's no, I got the dropper, didn't get the dropper. So I think that's a really important piece to throw in there. We believe, and I think we can maybe kind of do some intro first, but the short answer, and then we can get into it later. The short answer is this is improving how the mitochondria functions. And so here I told you super geeky. Mitochondria are the little organelles inside every cell in our body, except for blood cells. And every cell in our body, except for, again, for blood cells, have between 50 and 5,000 mitochondria in them. Except for our neurons and our brain cells, they have 2 million of these. Their responsibility is really to take the food we've eaten, right, that's gotten processed and shoved into our bloodstream, to take that food, convert it to the energy source that the cell needs. So what's the energy that a cell needs to be a liver cell, to be a heart cell, to be a kidney cell? And then our brains are our most valuable asset. They are also our most energy consuming asset. That's why there's 2 million mitochondria in every nerve cell and in every brain cell. That's their responsibility. We believe that this is impacting positively, obviously, the process of manufacturing that energy source that the mitochondria goes through.
It was a little bit of a geeky answer, I'm not going to lie, but it was a wonderful answer because I wanted to get that point because I didn't exactly know what it was doing. And I wanted to lead with this question because, like you say, when you observe your pet, your dog, and we love our dogs, right? And they're getting kind of a little, older and they're moving slower and you start getting worried. So I was really, really, really thankful to see a very, very positive effect. And that's like you say, there's no placebo in that. But I want to rewind a little bit, and probably Chris, this is another one for you, Patty. I'm sorry, but we got him today. I got to ask those questions.
Yeah.
So C60 was initially something that was used in the industry, right? It was, and then what happened that made it? And I know that's why you put Evo in the name, C60 Evo. It's an evolution of the original one. But what exactly happened that turned it from something that was used in industrial products to putting it in a body?
Well, let's go even further back than that, and we'll talk about kind of its discovery, the fact that the Nobel Prize is involved. I just want to give you a little reminder. Patty has a number of other really good pet testimonials, so when you cut back to her, she might have some of those to share.
I would love that.
I'm holding up a molecule, right, that looks like a soccer ball. If you're just listening, imagine a soccer ball where the lines on the soccer ball represent the bonds between the carbon atoms. So you have a spherical molecule of 60 carbon atoms. We call this ESS60, elemental safe spheres 60. It's a sphere, it's safe, it's elemental carbon, and there's 60 atoms in it. It was discovered in 1985 here in Houston. That's where our lab is based. The three scientists who discovered it won the Nobel Prize in 1996 for that discovery. So a short 11 years from discovery to being awarded the Nobel Prize. I actually started a company and the lab in 1991, manufacturing this and delivering it to research institutions around the world. What were they doing with it? Well, it turns out this is it's a very unique shape. It's the first closed cage molecule, meaning there's a void in the middle of this molecule. And in fact, any atom on the periodic chart can fit inside this molecule. So it's the first closed cage molecule. That's one of the reasons that they won the Nobel Prize. It also turns out that it performs as well or better than the current best material in almost every application, right? It makes better inks. It makes better batteries, better tires, better photocells. And this is often where people are like, wait a minute. You're like, I just gave this to Jagger. You just said inks, batteries, tires, and photocells.
Exactly.
I usually don't think about my car battery and what should I be giving my dog from my car battery on a daily basis. Well, first off, I'm going to scare you a little bit more because scientists thought this molecule would be toxic, right? And it's actually one particular facet of the soccer ball shaped molecule that looks like benzene, which is known to be toxic. So they put it in a toxicity study instead of being toxic. And in that study, they actually gave rats water, olive oil, and then olive oil with this ESS60 molecule.
Is that the 2012 Paris study?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. My lab provided the material, and we're actually mentioned in that original publication. I was actually at a biohacking conference, and somebody came up and was like, "You're the OGs of this industry." I was like, "Yeah, that's the right phrase. We are the OGs of this." So we started this industry. That study was published in 2012. Rats were given water, olive oil, and then olive oil with this ESS60 molecule. Instead of being toxic, the test subjects that they gave it to lived 90% longer than the control group. Right?
Okay. So no. I got to stop you there.
Yeah.
This is, you just kind of, they live 90% longer. Hold on. 90% longer. Explain it a little bit to me. It sounds like you're saying they doubled their lifespan.
Yeah. In fact, I'm going to add another twist to this because there's so many amazing things in this original study. Again, this is peer-reviewed, published research out of the University of Paris. That's the kind of research that you would hang your hat on, your cowboy hat on, right? I'm going to take this because I've got peer-reviewed, published research behind it. A typical Wistar rat lives about 32 months and has a known amount of tumor mass in its body, right? So the longer it lives, the more tumor mass it gets in its body. Even though the C60 Evo rats lived out to 62 months, again, a full 90+% extension of life, none of them had any tumors in them. So I mean, you just got monumental. Yeah,
crazy.
Yeah, it's
no. The reason why I'm saying this is because when the first time I got in, Patty, you told me this in our last conversation. This is the first time I heard of a 90% lifespan increase. Period. I mean, I've heard people talk about it. I know there are people that live much, much longer than we believe. There's this whole other spectrum, but within mainstream science, I've never heard anything like it. So why in the world? And Patty, you've been in a UFO world, in a crop circle world. Why is nobody talking about this in bigger ways? This is crazy.
Same reason as free energy won't be talked about, because it works. It's good. But, we are right on the cusp. We're like on the cliff looking down at this beautiful soon world. And all these things are waiting. And 15 years ago, CBD was giving people relief, but everybody's going, oh, marijuana, fear. And now, of course, CBD is common. ESS60, the evolution of this industrial molecule, is the new breakthrough miracle molecule, in my opinion. Like it used to be CBD, and it still is, thank God. But I think that the ESS60 is one of the greatest kept secrets. And when we talk about your dog, I love dog testimonials and cat testimonials, because people, that have passion for their pets, your kids are grown. So now it's like, okay, let's get a pet to love. And then your pet gets sick. It's like, oh man, you get sick. And with everything in our water, pet food, environment, we're threatened. And so that's why I got the big bottle. Just want to point out, I don't carry this from the closet very often because it takes a tractor. Thing is so big, it's 32 ounces, but I have it saved up in case I throw a concert or throw an event. I want everybody to take a spoonful at the door, because then I know they're going to stay well, not spread stuff, and tell the truth. Wow, what a concept. But when I'm joking about tell the truth, it's not exactly sodium pentothal, but it does something incredible for the brain. And I'm going to ask you, and I know you're probably hiding a massive mohawk. Chris is sporting a small one, but that hat has got to be hiding a big mohawk.
No, I'm hiding something. There's a lot more hair in the back. There's a lot more hair in the back.
I love it. Well, we can't show everything, I love it that my show is from the neck up. It's like, what are we?
You might not know this, but I got so tired of hearing about some secret white hat somewhere. And I said, listen, I'm every day I'm doing the best that I can to make a positive impact or inspire people to become a better version of themselves. So if that makes you a white hat, then I'll put on a white hat. I'm not hiding. I'm not somewhere behind the scenes. I'm here. So that's why I'm wearing a white hat. And one day it'll be time to take it off too. So
I never thought white hat and put that on, but I will say before the show, and I even wrote Chris, my favorite new influencer, in an email like an hour ago, just so he'd be like, I said, he's really present. Chris, you need to be sharp. He's always sharp. But, I just gave him the heads up that you're not one of those, hey, cool dude, just had a cocktail people, and
by the way, I'm going to do a shot here. It's already been a long day. I've had some technological challenges.
It's 5 o'clock somewhere, Chris. Knock yourself out.
You know what? I'll be quiet. I'm going for it also. So Chris is doing the olive oil. I'll just point out 0.86 milligrams per milliliters. Half as strong is the coconut oil. And it's so good in your morning coffee. And because it's half as strong, it's kind of a more subtle buzz. Because believe me, first thing in the morning, you do a shot of olive oil. Do you do yours in the morning?
The olive oil, yeah, the olive oil.
Do you notice it like quickly?
Yeah, it's, and I want to say this. I do kind of vibe at a high level of well-being most of the time. So, but I told you this. I love the subtlety of it, but I just feel it. It's a wave that goes through my body almost like and to say a wave of big energy, it's just a beautiful feeling, energetic feeling that I get moving through the day. I do feel, and I felt that brain quickness, I think I've told you this in our previous conversation, it's just even more there. And I'm very sensitive to when my brain is just even a little slower. I hate that. Like it bothers me greatly. And I know like you say, toxicity. I mean, we're dealing with things every single day. That's why, we want to, and I asked all our friends that are in the herbal arena because we have a lot of friends that do great stuff. I asked them all about C60 and everybody came back and said, I love it. There was some weird rumors in the last 2 years that it's somehow connected to graphene oxide. And we got that out of the way in our last conversation.
Yes.
But I just wanted, since the scientist is here, I wanted to bring it on because people keep commenting, oh, this is the same stuff that's in the juice and it's bad. And can you clarify from a scientific standpoint, Chris, that this is absolutely untrue?
Well, I mean, first off, we'll just use science. And if you go out and look at the literature, the interactions that you would get in the ESS60 compared to a graphene oxide. There are no parallels, right? So that's the first place that you would go.
There are no parallels. Number one. Okay.
Yeah. And that's in the literature. Now then, to just go, I always like to try and present things in a way that's easy to understand, right? Because not everybody's a scientist. Not everybody likes to go out and read the white papers. I got to be honest. Sometimes I don't like to go out and read the white papers, and just the peer-reviewed published papers. They don't have to necessarily be white papers. Those are kind of more generic typically. But a lot of people don't like to do that. So I like to kind of lay it out in real simple terms. First off, graphene is an individual sheet of graphite, right? That's in our pencil, right? Depending on your age, you use your pencils a lot in school. I used pencils a lot. I think Patty probably used pencils a lot. The newer generation may not even know what a pencil is, right?
Like I use pencils a lot.
Right? And so when you're rubbing that on your paper, right, when you're leaving that mark on your paper, you're actually leaving not an individual sheet, because you would never see one individual sheet, but that's graphene. That's what graphene is. So we're surrounded by it all the time. It's used in lubricants. It's used in your pencil leads. People are licking it. They're not having problems. When you add some oxides to it, that can be more problematic. But I want you to think about a graphene as being a sheet of paper. Right? It's extremely flat. It can have a different number of carbon molecules on it. So it can be bigger or smaller based on how many carbon molecules are in the one graphene sheet, but it's flat. And then you start thinking about, well, the C60 molecule is spherical and looks like a soccer ball, where you've taken this graphene, if it was, and you've actually folded up, and actually there are different facets, different shapes in that field that cause it to curve on itself. So you're talking about just structurally, fundamentally different things. And there is no concern when you're thinking about graphite or graphene oxide and comparing it to C60.
Good. I like getting that out of the way, because it bothered me when I first heard about it, like last year. I went into research mode and I was like, I don't see who, other than there's some similarities in the name, who made that connection and why, but I just couldn't find it. And I'm glad I couldn't find it, because there's multiple reasons to stay away from one of these two. Yeah. There's one thing that I noticed that Patty, you said to me, this thing's more valuable than gold per ounce. Is that true? Is it so hard to produce? What's the key? Why is it so valuable?
Well, Chris and Robert would know that, but their professor in college said to these two young kids, it's more valuable than gold. You should learn how to manufacture it. And between the two of them, they came up with it in college. We get a comment once in a while when Chris admits that he's been at it 32 years. My favorite, and I did a screenshot, was this older man. And he said, what was he, 10? Like looking at him, because he looks like a kid. Oh, and once in a while I say, lean into the camera and take off your glasses. Then, he really looks like a kid. So there's something in the product that's visibly tangible. Like when you look at people that are taking the product, it's like, I feel like we look a little different. And I'm looking at our influencers that are on it. Nobody says, I like it. They say, I love it. And we are constantly happy to send you more every month, because in my opinion, you guys are the new news. You are extremely important. And the thing about C60 is that it is, like Chris said, 125 times stronger than vitamin C as an antioxidant. Another test said 172 times. But most important is that it can get into little places that vitamin C can't. So you've got an immune booster that is a powerhouse, a super powerhouse of anti-inflammatory. Oh, we're not allowed to say that. It helps in an anti-inflammatory diet. We are allowed to say ever so carefully. It's antibiotic. But what I
can definitely say that it helped you in that way. I mean, that's a personal testimonial. You can always. I mean, we're not giving medical advice here. No. We're sharing about our personal experiences with it, and that is always legitimate.
Yes. Well, my personal experience was where I was beeline for. That I've had some interesting medical procedures, because leaving ufology, I got attacked real badly physically because I told the truth. And, I didn't know that was illegal back then, 8 years ago, but apparently it's really obvious now. And I'm positive I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for this juice. this miracle molecule blended into really good organic olive oil that Chris has been sourcing from the same farm for many years. So when I was deeply wounded, barely leaving my place where I was living, a cabin in the woods, scared of people, because I got threatened and I got whacked. And I'm not young, and I'm a female. And I'm also, back then I wasn't Granny Street Fighter. Now I've got my spoon. Don't mess with me.
That is funny. I'll tell you how we go. We have this little cupboard where we have certain things in there that we love taking. Not everything every day, and everything goes through intuitive testing. Then it goes through kinesiological testing. And so then you kind of figure out what works and when does it work and when should you more or less. And, there's a whole procedure. And it starts with how something feels. And the very fact that C60 is in there, very visible in that cupboard, C60 Evo, just means that it really tested positive on all of those metrics for us. Because we would never recommend something to our audience that we don't take ourselves and don't enjoy ourselves and don't believe in ourselves. It's just the way it is.
Absolutely.
Chris, you mentioned the study, and I want to get back to that because if people by now did the math and they look at the average lifespan of a human being and they went 90% longer than that, I know we can't say this is what's going to happen, obviously, but are there any indicators right now that where you see it definitely looks like some people are already going into extension mode here with C60 Evo?
Well, I think what we're seeing more is all the testimonials, right? The reality is if humans live 90% longer, the average human will live to 152, right? So that's not the old, everyone's brain immediately goes to, that's the oldest person. No, that's the middle of the bell curve around it. So people are living into their 200s if we extend our life by 90%, right? The oldest living human documented at this point was Jean Clement. She lived to 122. So if she lived, well, we'll just say if she doubled her life, she would have gotten to 144.
244.
244. Yeah, my math was not mathing. So she would have gotten to 244. So the bell curve is around 152. So the reality is we will not do longevity studies on humans because the study time frame is too long. What we'll probably end up with is an aggregate of data on people who have been taking the product and are in a better state and who have ultimately lived longer than the aggregate of people who haven't been taking the product. Now, our goal, obviously, Patty, my goal, and you're helping us with this, is to get this into the hands of as many people as possible, because we're really in a revolutionary state. I call it the longevity revolution, where our whole mindset is changing about the fact that we can live longer, the fact that we can live healthier. There's a yes answer to both of those questions. And I think a lot of people, the medical community is starting to shift. And I think slowly the general population is going to start to become aware. Like right now, it's funny. I'll tell the story of this 90% extension of life in test subjects, peer-reviewed published research. And I typically get two reactions. One of them is from New Yorkers who are like, why would we want rats to live longer? Chris, you're an actual evil person. You should bury this research and never speak of it again. That's the New Yorker.
Spoken like a true New Yorker.
And then the other people are like, often, not always, often, why would I want to live longer? And
honestly, Chris, the way the world looks right now, I get why people are saying this. It's not like we're in this beautiful, harmonious period where 200 seems like something to reach for.
Yeah, touche, right? Like that's a whole nother consideration. Like, do I want to be around for what looks to be manifesting is different than I think what most people are reacting to. Because if I change the question, right, and I'm like, if you have the same mental capacity that you had today, and you have the same physical capacity that you have today, would you then be interested in living longer? And then that's when your topic, well, I don't know, this doesn't look like it's going that well. Well, so we'll see. I think you would like to have the option, right?
Yeah.
If you had the same mental and physical capacity, and that's what I think that we're shifting towards.
Well, if you're the scientist, and I'm just observing, learning, studying, right? And the way I see it is, what seems to kill most people is not old age, it's toxicity. It's cell toxicity. So if because of the way we live and the environment and what we put in our bodies and whatnot. So if you, quit putting toxins in your body and really get clean water, healthy foods, B, seek out an environment that is less toxic on all levels, right? And C, start removing toxins from your body that are still there. Then by default, you should extend your life by quite a lot, actually, I feel like. And we see this certain islands in Japan that live in a certain way, and in other Asian countries, they have 110, 115, and it's nothing unusual. They don't even talk about it much. How is C60 Evo with regards of toxicity? What have you seen, and in what time span can people expect to feel better in that arena?
So one of the things that we notice, and this is, I'm also going to go back and address your kind of a testimonial that it's been pretty subtle, because we do get subtle responses from people, and we actually get people who will take the product for a month, maybe they'll take it for 2 months, and I'll share a testimonial here in a second, and they're like, I haven't really noticed that much. Then they
Chris, I love subtle. For me, subtle is a compliment. If something just kicks in like crazy, I love subtlety. I love when it starts working with my body in a subtle way rather than like a bomb coming in,
Yep. I've got the perfect testimonial that really matches what you're saying. It's one of our bigger distributors in the Houston area. She originally ordered the product for her dog with no intention of taking the actual product herself. And when she noticed such a profound difference in her dog is a Shih Tzu, actually. And again, this is great for the dog testimonial. There is no placebo effect. Then she decided to try and take the product. And she shared with me, we actually did a video together, and she shared with me that 3 months in, she would initially have said, hey, I haven't really noticed anything, but she stopped and she started kind of taking stock of her life. And she said, I noticed that I'm working later. I'm waking up earlier. I was never really a morning person. And this is arguably the worst testimonial about a supplement ever. I cleaned my garage. Now, we don't use that on any marketing material, but it means something, right? Why haven't you addressed your garage? Maybe there's emotional baggage in your garage that you want to address. Maybe it's just a volume, and it's never going to happen in one day. So it's an energy thing. But the fact that she actually got through that is consistent with other testimonials that we get. Our most consistent testimonial is people take it in the morning, they report mental focus and energy during the day, and then better sleep that night, which just compounds to then the next day, as they take it again, more mental focus and energy, because not only did they take the product, they actually also got better sleep. All of those sound like things that you would want to be able to tackle a task that's been looming over your head for a long time.
I want to throw out one more dog testimonial since we keep dropping the dog hint. We did a show the other night with John B. Wells, and he's got a dog that is a black lab, 175 pound. He did. And it was a huge black lab. And then he's got a little teeny one that's only 100 pounds. So the big one had really bad dysplasia, and he said he was really having a hard time getting around last year. And we definitely thought we were going to lose him, and we had to carry him, and it was really awful. And we put him on the C60 Evo for dogs. And within 2 weeks, he's rolling again. Now he's catching Frisbees. Now he's running in the yard. And then he said to us, thank you for giving me one more year with my dog.
Oh, that's incredible. And we thought, I told you this, we thought that our dog, last summer, it didn't look so good. And then thankfully, there were some other things that we started doing, and then C60 came. And so the combination, I'm really in the last weeks, as I've been telling you, I've just seen daily C60 in the morning. And I just see he wants to go out more often. He runs more often, even chases a squirrel, stuff like that. It's quite wonderful. And we're grateful to have more time with him. Now, Chris, I got to ask you, I asked Patty last time. She said, quite honestly, this is a more like for our scientists. here.
Yep.
Why is it called Buckminster Fullerene? We kind of all know Buckminster Fuller for his famous quote that if you want to change something, don't fight the old, create the new, paraphrasing here. But why is it Buckminster Fullerene?
Yeah, so Buckminster Fuller is a futurist and was a very famous and prominent figure a while back. I guess that's in the 60s. Yeah. And one of the things that he did is he brought to prominence, so he didn't invent it, but he brought to prominence the geodesic dome. So if you think about Epcot Center, right? Epcot Center has this big dome right up front, like front and center. That is a geodesic dome. Well, that is what this molecule is. That's the shape of this molecule. So 2 of the 3 scientists who really kind of took the data from the equipment and figured out that there were 60 carbon atoms and what shape could that be? It turns out to be this soccer ball shape. That was 2 of those professors had actually gone to a world fair. I think it was in Chicago, where it was prominently displayed a big geodesic dome. And so they remembered that from their youth. They kind of knew of Buckminster Fuller. And so they decided to call it a buckyball and to call the whole collection of molecules. By the way, when you manufacture this, which is a process that takes temperatures that are the same as the sun in just a local process. That's part of the reason it's so expensive. When you make it, you actually make multiple molecules. The most abundant is the C60, right, with 60 carbon atoms in the shape of a soccer ball. The next most abundant is C70, obviously has 10 more carbon atoms added to it. It's more of a rugby shape, and then there's all sorts of iterations, as long as they're even pairs going up. And so that whole gamut of molecules are called fullerenes after Buckminster Fuller. So that's the origin. And, I mentioned that one of the great applications or interesting applications for the molecule is in batteries. I'm very hopeful that we do actually get batteries. It's fairly cost competitive with lithium, the current kind of best type of battery. I'm really holding for it, not just because I've been working with this molecule for 32 years now, but because I think a Bucky battery sounds really cool.
Ooh.
Oh yeah, a Bucky battery. I love that. There's my mind starts racing.
Yeah, right?
You know what I gotta come up with a joke for a hippie, a scientist, and a cowboy going to podcast.
Well, don't forget the hippie chick.
A hippie chick, a scientist, and a cowboy going to podcast. I gotta come up with
a white hat cowboy. Not just
there you go. Well,
so I want to mention one important thing, because on your last beautiful screen thumbnail, you called us C60. And Chris used to make me put a quarter in the swear jar if I said the term C60, because when we're talking about for people, we don't say that, because that's for tires, batteries, solar cells. It's industrial grade. And so when friends of yours say, oh, I take C60, you want to say maybe back, are you taking the good stuff, which is for sure made for humans and pets, ESS60. And of all the labs in the world.
And that's why we call it C60 Evo, right?
That's right.
Evolution.
Now, Chris and Robert and their lab, after 30 years, they still sell industrial grade. Like he said, they're working on a Bucky battery. I love that. And, so they're constantly R&D down there. They are working overtime, whereas I'm the social director and I get to, bring in the people like you, watch all the comments, interact, keep us, getting out to the world. But the important thing about the difference is one is industrial grade, and you don't want to be putting that in your body. Another really important thing to me is that the ESS60 is what was tested in the famous 2012 Paris-Bachmann study. And every other person that sells the products, they talk about the study, but their stuff wasn't what was used. ESS60 was from Chris's lab. So when you're comparing apples to pineapples or apples to hiking poles, it's just like one's industrial maybe. And when you see C60, you don't know what it is. How is it processed? Is it from Wuhan? Like, it's kind of questionable, but then ESS60 is what we want to be. Again, the evolution, and it's something that you can count on. And I know when it comes to my body and something I take every day, I want to be able to count on it. And these guys have been doing it so long, and they're such great nerds. And they don't get out much except to go to more conferences and conferences. And I mean, I couldn't be luckier because I get to sell something that I'm sure of because it saved my life. And when people talk about life extension, for me, it's like friggin' life. I'm still here. Every day I wake up and go, oh.
Like I said, Patty, I've been asked on numerous occasions in my life whether I wanted to be in sales of something or be involved with the sales of something. And I always say no. And to this day, I say no. I will try something. I will experience something. If I love it, I'll recommend it. I'll do it anyways. I'll tell everybody about it. So this is as simple as it gets. And if I don't love it, if I don't take it, I'm not going to recommend it to you. That's also as simple as it gets. I don't care what they would pay me. I've turned plenty of money down because I don't believe in it. So here's what I do believe. You should probably go. No, you should go to C60 evo.com/inspired channel. Check it all out. Feel your way through it. And you will know what to start with, how to start. You'll get clear guidance on that. And then give it a try for yourself. Use Inspired channel at checkout to save some money as you go. And then come back in a few weeks, maybe in a month or so, and leave a comment under this video and let people know what you experienced and how it felt for you. That's ultimately how we help each other, because we recommend something, we try, and it's all authentic, and authenticity stands. That's the most important thing for us. Chris and Patty and Chris, I should do it in a proper way. Mm-hmm. I want to thank you both. I hope we get to do this again and talk more about it. I love that we could add a little bit of the scientific side because everybody thinks different, feels different, and I love that we get all the information. So thank you both so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
John, I would just add one thing. When they go to your link, right? So that's c60evo.com/inspired channel. We do have the 3 oils, right? Olive oil, avocado oil, and MCT oil. So people ask us which one would we recommend, and it's always the olive oil, and it's for a very specific. It's actually for 2 very specific reasons. One, we're a research-based organization, and all the research is in actual olive oil. So that's part of the reason. The next is we actually get more of this ESS60 molecule in the olive oil. And then the last thing I would share, we do offer a 20% discount if you go on subscription. And then your coupon code, the Inspired Channel one, is good for 10% off. Take advantage of that subscription. You can, in fact, cancel it at any time. Our customer service team has like 850 5-star reviews on Google. They're not trained to talk you out of your canceling your subscription. They're trained to support you and keep you happy. I mean, just that's how we operate as a business through and through, including starting at our product, then the customer service that we deliver. But we want you to take advantage of that 20% discount plus the coupon code.
Fantastic. So Inspired Tribe, hop over c60evo.com/inspired channel and do exactly what Chris just told you to do and just experience it for yourself. Again, thank you both. It's been an honor. And Inspired Tribe, you know we love you. We appreciate you. We'll be back with you again very, very soon.